Good morning, my name's Elaine. I'm one of the stakeholder managers on the Trams to Newhaven project in Edinburgh. We're actually here today at Leith Police Station, which is the old Leith Town Hall on Queen Charlotte Street. And we're here to speak to Police Sergeant Elaine McArthur-Kerr, who's a member of the North East Community Policing Team, about the Crimes and Offences booklet, which was one of the contents that was found in the Robert Burns statue, underneath the Robert Burns statue on Bernard Street. So hi Elaine, thanks for hosting us this afternoon in this amazing room. So can you just tell us a wee bit about the room and just, the station itself?
Absolutely, a pleasure to have you here in this historical building that I have the pleasure of working in. As you said, the Leith Police Station is the old Leith Town Hall, designed and built in 1828-29 by Edinburgh architects R&R Dixon as the Leith Sheriff Court. From the Queen Charlotte Street entrance of the building, we've walked up the grand ceremonial staircase to this magnificent old council chamber, the room that we're sitting in right now. You can see behind us the huge panoramic painting of King George IV's landing at Leith in 1833 by Alexander Carse.
It's an amazing print, isn't it?
It's fabulous.
Some of the art in here is just amazing.
Absolutely beautiful. A real treat to have in this room. The adjoining terrace of the building was converted to police of borough offices by local architect James Simpson in 1868 and later refurbished by him in the late 1890s, along with the original council chamber. Simpson also designed the classical prison block that forms another part of the building, which I think I've actually showed you on previous visits. And that actually faces onto Constitution Street, where the tram works are currently taking place, as we know. So after many years of commercial occupation in this building, the town hall itself was converted in 1983 for modern day use as a police station. The interior of the building has been much altered, of course, to align to its current purpose. But the principal first floor rooms are well preserved, including the council chamber itself. The other sort of features of the room, as we can see, are the ornate ceiling and lighting that we have, and on the walls hang the portraits of the former Lord Provost.
It's amazing, it's an amazing room. And is this sort of going to be opening up again for tours and things? Because I know you used to sort of do tours and sort of viewings of the rooms and the station.
Absolutely. So over the years we've welcomed a lot of different sort of community groups to come in and have a look and indulge in the history of the building itself and learn a little bit more. The pandemic's obviously impacted on that, but now that we're emerging from that, we're pleased to see that we're going to be reaching out to community groups again in the future.
So this is the actual document that came out, well, a copy, should I say, of the document that came out of the time capsule. And it was actually only A5 in size. Our conservationist managed to unroll it very carefully and managed to take some images for us. So this booklet itself, we got a copy and we got it to the police station, and I dropped it off with yourself, Elaine. So how is it received by your colleagues?
It's been brilliant. It's been really well received. This obviously isn't the only station within our local area command. We've also got Craigmillar. So I've had officers and supervisors from both Leith and Craigmillar, coming and popping in to come and have a look, learn a little bit more about it. And I'm actually going to keep the copy that you presented. I'm going to keep this one here at Leith as well, because as I said, with people now coming back in, to find out a little bit more of the history of the building, this will generate a little bit of discussion along with it, so something nice for people to have a leaf through.
That is great. So the booklet itself is 1897 and obviously reporting on policing then. So I'm presuming there's quite a big change in the policing from 1897 to policing now.
Yeah, absolutely, a huge difference. So policing in Scotland developed with boroughs such as Leith, and in the late 18th century boroughs and counties amalgamated, which led to the 8 legacy forces being established in 1975, one of which was obviously Lothian and Borders, and in 2013 we became a singular organisation when Police Scotland was formed. I think it would be difficult for us to imagine how life was then and just exactly how policing looked, and what the needs of the people in the community, what they actually looked for in terms of policing. And it would be vastly different in comparison to the modern digital age that we live in now. And undoubtedly, we're far better equipped in this day and age, to deal with the needs of the community. So an absolutely vast difference. Times have changed hugely.
So that booklet actually said that there was only 20 staff in 1897. I mean, I'm presuming you've got far more staff working out of this station today than you did then.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. And I think I spoke earlier about how we now sit in the North East Local Area Command, and we have two distinct stations within that area, being Leith and Craigmillar. So I took my time to actually count up the numbers of exactly how many staff we've got nowadays. So we have one local area commander who's a chief inspector. He does on occasion work out of this station, however splits his time equally between both just to manage staff. Altogether we have 6 inspectors, again, who split their time between both stations. And there's 18 sergeants and 154 constables all together within the area, but specifically for Leith, we've got 11 sergeants, myself included, 80 constables and 3 members of police staff, one of whom you obviously met when you came in, today. So, quite an increase in terms of numbers. But then that, of course, reflects the increase in population. Yeah.
You obviously said before that you were going to leave a copy of this booklet in here for any tours, community tours and community groups and things. Have you got any other plans for that booklet?
Yeah, so colleagues are currently working on developing and creating a new police museum locally, which will be centred at Dalkeith. So it's still very much a work in progress, but as soon as I got this, I got in touch with them, and they're delighted that they're going to receive a copy of this booklet as well, so it will be there on display for anybody that visits this new policing museum that's getting set up in Dalkeith.
So from this Crimes and Offences book, that there's actually listed in here a couple or a few crimes that we were hoping that you could maybe shed some light off, because we really did not know what they were. One of them being shebeening. So what is shebeening?
A shebeen is was an unlicensed drinking establishment, particularly prevalent in Scotland and Ireland. The 1880s saw a rapid increase in the number of shebeens, and were essentially a bit of a hot topic between those seeking to reduce the amount of alcohol consumed by their peers, or those who just considered them a bit of harmless fun. But essentially an establishment where people would get together and they would discuss, matters of the day at the time, political or otherwise. So shebeening itself was the art or practice of keeping a shebeen.
Right.
And were tried before the Edinburgh magistrates.
Right.
So despite closure, they were frequently reopened just because of their importance in the community, as I've described to you. And what I noted with great interest was that it was predominantly females that were arrested for shebeening when you actually have a look at it in the context of the book.
Wow.
And that's probably, just through the research that I've done, attributed to the fact that the role that women played historically in alcohol brewing, or perhaps just that they were better cover at the end of the day and were less likely to be discovered operating by the police.
Fantastic, great. So the other one that we had was furious and reckless driving. So obviously heard of reckless driving, but furious and reckless driving, is that still something that would be classed as a crime?
So I hadn't heard of either. Clearly a road traffic offence under Scots law at that time. The modern day equivalent, as you quite rightly point out, is careless driving, effectively, which falls under the Road Traffic Act 1988. And that's where driving falls short of the standard that's expected of a competent and reasonable driver, careful driver. Furious driving is a term that's used elsewhere in the UK in terms of law, however not something in Scotland.
Alright, great. So the next one completely fascinated me. I thought it was amazing, and it is drunk and in charge of a horse. Now, is drunk and in charge of a horse actually still a crime?
Yes.
It is!
One of the more bizarre laws that still exist, but not, again, one that I've ever encountered or hoped to, for that matter. The Licensing Act 1872 provides a statutory offence in Scotland to be drunk while in charge of a cow, a horse, a carriage or a steam engine, or while in the possession of a loaded firearm. If you're found guilty, you can be imprisoned, and my advice is that if you find yourself responsible for a cow or a horse in the Leith area after having a drink, please make sure that you get a designated rider.
Fantastic.
It was well into the 20th century, obviously, when cars became a popular mode of transport in our country, and replacing horses and carriages. So, yeah.
Fantastic. So the next one, malicious mischief. What is malicious mischief?
Okay, so I'll read you out the definition of this crime. Under Scots common law, the crime of malicious mischief is defined and consists in the willful, wanton and malicious destruction of damage to or interference with the property of another person. So there must be effectively malice when it comes down to either actual or inferred. Typical acts would be breaking windows, injuring growing trees, killing or maiming animals, but very much an offence that's still applicable today.
Wow, it's one I'd never heard of. So there was also another mention in this booklet. There's a mention of apprehensions made by Leith Police Station for other forces. So it sort of gives you an understanding of sort of, even though separate, still working together in essence.
Yeah, absolutely, very much still the case today. Although, as I've mentioned, we are this one singular organisation in Police Scotland, all the areas work together to make sure that we're keeping people safe, and that includes making arrests for each other across different areas of the country. Equally, we extend requests received from other law enforcement agencies within the United Kingdom and internationally to make arrests on their behalf, and vice versa. We make requests to them as well. Really we all pull together. So I don't see any change in that. I think perhaps we've probably arguably got even better.
So another thing that the booklet mentions is that juveniles under the age of 16 years that were brought before the police court in Leith and sent to reformatories and or industrial schools. So for what reason would they have been sent to these places?
Again, I had to do a little bit of research on this one myself, before my time. So I discovered that a reformatory, effectively an approved school, I think we may be more familiar with that term. It was an institution where young offenders were sent as an alternative to prison, and they included an element of punishment in it. But the industrial schools, which I found quite interesting, would provide food, education, industrial training, such as tailoring, shoemaking, joinery for the boys, and needlework and cookery for the girls. But at the time of in this particular era, the Victoria Industrial School existed in Wrestle-Rig Road in Leith and was used and eventually closed in 1924. The industrial schools cared for neglected children, taught them a trade, and there was a real emphasis on preventing crime. So I would imagine more sort of lower tier offences would be where the kids would fall into, going to an industrial school as opposed to over an approved school. They were residential by the looks of it, the industrial schools, from what I could learn, but there were day attenders, so there were timetables that were attached to it. I don't think they were seasonal, because I think that was something else that you were perhaps interested on, but I couldn't find any information on that. But certainly more lower tier offences for going to the industrial schools, with a real steer on kind of diverting the kids that found themselves maybe with some problematic, low tier offences at the time, and learning them a trade, so that they'd be able to go out, and develop and go into a better life for them.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thanks for looking into that for me.
You're
really
welcome.
Interesting. So there's a summary in the booklet as well that sort of mentions the number of people convicted of offences and a breakdown of those sentences from going to prison, fined or sent to reformatories. And one of them that we found interesting was to be whipped. Now, do you know, or have you been able to find out when and how whipping happened? When did it stop? Was it a public display?
Sure. So again, this is one I didn't know a lot around, you know, the topic itself, and when you asked the question again, it was something I had to go away and have a look at. So I think effectively whipping came under sort of judicial and corporal punishment, which was finally abolished in mainland Britain in 1948. I found out, which really isn't that long ago.
No.
You know, I've described that as being modern history, but was obviously a punishment that was administered, you know, during the late 1800s. I think whipping would perhaps be more commonly, or the birch was something that was commonly used in Scotland from what I understood. So that was a bundle of twigs bound tightly together at one end, and would most likely have taken place within the prison area. So we obviously have that area of the station here. I can't see if that was something that did actually, you know, take place in this particular building. But there's little local information that's held on the subject, so I'm afraid I can't really expand on that one much further for you.
So our last one for today. If a person in 1897 could have a look at the list of crimes and offences from 2021, what do you think would the thing that would be most surprised at?
I think that's a really good question, because I can't imagine, as I said before, what it must have been like to, you know, have been alive in 1897 in comparison to being alive now in 2021. The differences are absolutely massive. Moreover, just from a sort of digital sort of aspect as well, you know, the way that everything's been modernised, I don't think there could be any comprehension between somebody that lived then and to how we live now. And let alone the changes that have taken place within policing. I think, for me, the biggest surprise to them would be that there are in fact still crimes and offences that are applicable today. Than there, you know, than in comparison to then. So for me, that's where I see the biggest surprise being, as opposed to sort of trying to understand some of the modern day crimes and offences that exist. So perhaps things haven't changed.
No, maybe not.